October 28, 1943. World War II rages across two oceans. In a classified corner of the Philadelphia Naval Yard where something is about to happen. The USS Eldridge, a destroyer escort bristling with experimental equipment, sits anchored in the Delaware River. The ship was part of a top-secret Navy project that would become the center of one of the most controversial experiments in military history. Some believe that on this autumn day, the United States Navy made a 306-foot warship completely invisible to enemy radar. But witnesses claim something else occurred. The ship didn't just disappear from radar screens. Eyewitnesses would later swear they watched the USS Eldridge vanish entirely from sight, only to reappear 200 miles away in Norfolk, Virginia, in a matter of seconds. But how much of this story can we actually believe? And why, 8 decades later, does the Philadelphia experiment continue to capture our imagination? To understand the Philadelphia experiment, we must first journey into the world of 1940s military science. The United States was locked in a desperate race against Nazi Germany, not just for military supremacy, but for scientific breakthroughs that could determine the war's outcome. Einstein had recently fled Nazi Germany, bringing with him revolutionary theories about space, time, and electromagnetic fields. His unified field theory suggested that gravity and electromagnetism were connected in ways that could bend light around objects. According to conspiracy researchers, the US Navy began exploring whether these theories could be weaponized. Working with Einstein and other brilliant minds, they launched Project Rainbow, an attempt to create an electromagnetic field so powerful it could render ships invisible to enemy detection. But believers claim the Navy's ambitions went beyond simple camouflage. They were attempting to manipulate the fundamental fabric of reality itself. The question remains, in an era when radar technology was still in its infancy, why would the Navy need to make ships completely invisible? And if such technology existed, why wasn't it deployed to end the war immediately? The answers lie in what happened aboard the USS Eldridge that October day. In 1955, 12 years after the supposed experiment, a man named Carl Allen sent a series of mysterious letters to astronomer and UFO researcher Morris Jessup. Allen claimed to have witnessed something while serving aboard a merchant vessel in Philadelphia Harbor. According to Allen's detailed account, he watched from his ship as the USS Eldridge began to glow with an eerie green light. Electromagnetic coils, wrapped around the ship's hull, created a field so intense that the very air around the vessel began to shimmer and distort. Then the USS Eldridge simply vanished. Not just from radar, but from sight itself, leaving only an outline in the water where the ship had been moments before. At least, that's what Allen reported in his letters. But Allen's story didn't end there. He described naval personnel who witnessed the experiment being sworn to secrecy under threat of court-martial. Some sailors, he claimed, suffered psychological breakdowns. Others reportedly experienced side effects, becoming temporarily invisible themselves or finding their bodies frozen in time. Military psychiatrists of the era did document cases of what they called battle fatigue and war neurosis among naval personnel. But were these conventional wartime stress responses, or evidence of something else? According to believers, the human cost was devastating. But if the experiment was real, why would the Navy continue despite such consequences? For decades, the United States Navy maintained absolute silence about Project Rainbow and the Philadelphia experiment. When pressed by researchers and journalists, official responses were brief and dismissive. No such experiment ever occurred. But in the 1990s, the Navy began releasing previously classified documents related to their World War II research programs. Among these papers were references to degaussing experiments, legitimate attempts to reduce ships' magnetic signatures to prevent detection by magnetic mines. The USS Eldridge, according to newly released records, was indeed subjected to experimental electromagnetic procedures in 1943. But rather than invisibility, these experiments aimed to neutralize the ship's magnetic field. a mundane yet strategically crucial objective. Navy historians point out logical inconsistencies in the Philadelphia experiment narrative. Official logs show the USS Eldridge was nowhere near Philadelphia on the date of the supposed experiment. Instead, it was conducting routine operations in the Bahamas. Yet believers argue that these official records could have been falsified as part of an elaborate cover-up. After all, if the Navy had achieved teleportation and invisibility, wouldn't such capabilities be worth protecting at any cost? The question becomes, in an age where governments have admitted to decades of UFO research, mind control experiments, and other classified programs, why would they continue denying the Philadelphia experiment unless there's still something they're trying to hide? Regardless of its factual basis, the Philadelphia experiment has become one of America's most enduring conspiracy theories. But why does this particular story continue to captivate us 8 decades later? The legend exploded into popular culture in 1984 with the release of The Philadelphia Experiment, a Hollywood film that dramatized the events. Books, documentaries, and television shows followed, each adding new layers to the mythology. Sociologists and psychologists point out that the Philadelphia experiment embodies several powerful psychological themes. It represents humanity's eternal desire to transcend physical limitations, our fascination with forbidden knowledge, and our deep-seated suspicion of government secrecy. The story emerged during an era when the US military was conducting unusual and often unethical experiments, from atomic testing on unwitting populations to psychological manipulation studies. Programs like MK-Ultra, the Tuskegee experiments, and radiation testing on civilians have since been confirmed and declassified. These revelations suggest that if the government was willing to conduct such experiments, perhaps the Philadelphia experiment wasn't beyond the realm of possibility. The story persists because it reflects a fundamental truth about the relationship between citizens and their governments. In times of crisis, the pursuit of power often overrides moral considerations. Whether or not the USS Eldridge actually vanished, the Philadelphia experiment represents our collective anxiety about the price of scientific progress. So what really happened in Philadelphia Harbor on that October day in 1943? The truth, as is often the case, may be more complex than either the believers or skeptics imagine. Today's military openly employs technologies that would have seemed like magic to 1940s observers. Stealth aircraft that are virtually invisible to radar, ships that can mask their electromagnetic signatures, and weapons systems guided by satellite networks spanning the globe. In 2020, the US Navy officially acknowledged that it has been researching technologies that could create localized manipulation of space-time. The same fundamental physics principles underlying the Philadelphia experiment are being actively explored by military scientists today. Perhaps the real story of the Philadelphia experiment isn't about what happened in the past, but about what it reveals about human nature. Our willingness to believe in possibilities when faced with the limitations of conventional understanding, our need for mystery in an age of increasing scientific knowledge. The USS Eldridge was scrapped in 1999, its metal recycled into bridges and buildings. But the questions it represents remain relevant. How far should science push the boundaries of reality? What price are we willing to pay for technological supremacy? And perhaps most importantly, in our quest to push beyond known limits, what parts of our humanity might we accidentally leave behind?